On the morning of August 6, 1945, at precisely 8:15 a.m., the city of Hiroshima ceased to exist as it had been known, and the uncensored footage that later emerged from the ruins reveals a level of destruction that words alone cannot fully convey, showing not a battlefield but a civilian city erased in seconds by a single atomic weapon dropped by the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay, an event that marked the first use of nuclear weapons in human history and permanently altered the nature of warfare. The raw film begins with a landscape that appears unreal, miles of flattened ground where homes, schools, factories, and hospitals once stood, reduced to ash, twisted steel, and scorched earth, with only a few concrete structures left standing like skeletal monuments amid total annihilation. And as the camera moves slowly through the streets, it captures survivors wandering in silence, their clothes burned away, their faces expressionless with shock, many unaware of what had happened or why their city was gone. Unlike censored wartime newsreels shown to the public at the time, this footage does not cut away from suffering or sanitize the consequences, instead showing overwhelmed medical stations where doctors and nurses, many injured themselves, attempt to treat thousands with no supplies, no electricity, and no understanding yet of radiation sickness as people collapse without visible wounds, bleed internally, or weaken rapidly in the days following the blast. The film documents children sitting quietly among the ruins, orphaned and silent, elderly civilians staring at where their homes once stood, and long lines of survivors seeking water, food, or relatives who would never be found, while the shadows of people and objects burned permanently into walls and steps serve as haunting evidence of how instant and absolute the destruction was near the hypocenter. Buildings that survived the initial blast are shown stripped bare inside, with furniture fused to floors, glass melted, and steel frames bent like wire, while entire neighborhoods farther out appear flattened uniformly, demonstrating the unprecedented scale of a single weapon compared to conventional bombing. The footage also reveals something largely absent from early American reporting: the slow, invisible aftermath. As survivors who initially appeared unharmed begin to lose hair, develop burns days later, and succumb to illness weeks after the explosion, baffling doctors who had never encountered radiation exposure on this scale, a reality that was not immediately understood or acknowledged by those who authorized the bombing. Japanese cameramen, military documentarians, and later Allied investigators captured these scenes with minimal narration, allowing the devastation to speak for itself. And for years, much of this material remained restricted or rarely shown because it challenged simplified narratives of clean victory and forced viewers to confront the human cost behind strategic decisions. The uncensored footage makes clear that Hiroshima was not just a military target, but a living city of civilians. Workers, students, families, many of whom had no warning and no shelter from a force that moved faster than sound and hotter than the surface of the sun, killing tens of thousands instantly and condemning many more to slow deaths from injuries and radiation. As the camera lingers on memorials, mass cremations, and the painstaking recovery of bodies from rivers and rubble, the scale of loss becomes undeniable, and the absence of sound in many scenes only amplifies the horror, emphasizing how silence replaced the normal noise of daily life. Historians note that this footage is essential not because it assigns blame, but because it preserves reality, showing exactly what nuclear weapons do to human beings and cities when used in war, beyond abstract numbers or strategic justifications. By the time Japan surrendered days later, Hiroshima had become a symbol not only of the war's end, but of a terrifying new era, and the uncensored images ensure that the event cannot be remembered as a simple turning point without consequence. Today, this footage stands as a historical record and a warning, reminding viewers that the atomic bomb was not just an invention or a victory, but a humanitarian catastrophe whose effects continued long after the mushroom cloud faded, and that understanding Hiroshima requires looking directly at what happened on the ground, to ordinary people, in real streets, in real homes, so that the lessons of August 6, 1945 are remembered not as distant history, but as a permanent reminder of the cost of nuclear war and the responsibility that comes with such power.